It's early summer and we're into berry season. And one of the first berries for us, at least in the summer months here, that comes off our perennial shrubs is red currants. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Currants are not necessarily the most common or thought of berry producing plant or bush in most of North America. In fact, in some parts of North America, for quite a few years, they were really frowned upon growing for a variety of reasons. However, currants are a very useful thing to have in the garden, if for no other reason than they will produce your fruit with very little work and effort. Now, we actually grow two kinds of currants. We grow the reds, which we're talking about today, and their more common relative, which is a different species, the blacks, which are beside me here. Both of them do tend to be in fruit around the same time. Typically for us, the red currants are usually a little bit earlier, but this year, with everything being kind of weird, they're on at the same time. So we will be harvesting black currants a little later, but we're going to get to this red currant harvest. Red currant's typically overshadowed by its more famous black currant cousin. There's a lot more information available on the benefits of black currant, using that for teas and jams and jellies and all that sort of stuff. But one of the biggest things I can tell you about red currant is it's prolific. It produces an exorbitant amount of berries, and that is with very little work. Red currant is extremely cold hardy. This is kind of a plant it and forget it plant. The variety we grow is Red Lake Currant, which is a pretty standard variety across the board. It's available in a lot of areas, and it is extremely cold hardy. These plants really start producing fairly young in life. So red currants are also healthy for you. Like most berry crops, red currants are very high in antioxidants, which of course is one of the best benefits you could imagine from having your own fruit production in your own backyard. But they're also high in some other things. They're very high in potassium, which is not something you find in a lot of other berries. They're also high in vitamin C, which of course has lots of its own health benefits, and vitamin K. The other thing that's interesting about red currants is they're fairly low on the glycemic index scale. So this is a plant that's similar to, say, cranberries, in that you can consume a sort of set amount and it doesn't set your blood sugars off, because this plant actually takes longer to digest and therefore longer for the sugars to enter your body than some other fruits. So inevitably the topic always comes up of what to do with red currants. They're these tiny little berries. They're quite jelly filled on the inside with smallish seeds. Really, I actually just like eating them. I don't find them too bad. They are tartar than a lot of other berries. But the other things you can do with them, they freeze amazingly, and they can be made into jellies or syrups at a later date. They can be frozen and added into smoothies and that kind of thing. Essentially anything you would do with a berry, you can do with a red currant. Oh yeah, they're ready to be picked. So as of right now, we actually only have two red currant bushes. This one here and this one over here. And from looking from sort of top down, it doesn't look like there's a lot of fruit in there, but wait until I go underneath. And just look at all the berries on that plant. Red currant can also be a relatively decent sort of ornamental landscape bush. It's kind of unobtrusive, but when it's got all these berries on it, it's quite pretty. And it can be easily sort of incorporated into flower beds and near the house type scenarios where you might plant something that looks a little pretty but also is very productive. So we have our two red currant bushes just out behind the house in a little row with the black currant actually in between them, with a bit of a funny story. We've tried to buy more red currant bushes, but at least around us, every time we bought one, and we bought two that we thought were supposed to be red currants for this row, and I looked at the leaves and said, that doesn't look right, but I bought them anyways, and they ended up being black currants. So I don't know what was going on with that, but the nice part of it is these plants can be propagated through layering, where you basically can wrap the stem and get some roots to form, and then you can take cuttings from it. So I haven't done that yet, but it is on the agenda. One thing that's amazing about these plants is once they're ripe like this, and these plants are completely ripe, everything on them's ripe, they're very easy to harvest. It's just a quick grab and a pull, and you get your berries. and then we rinse and repeat. As I said previously, producing fruit, specifically berries at home, is probably one of the best things you can do on a small scale if you're looking for some perennial crops. And I have to be honest with you, if you haven't tried red currants, I would strongly recommend give them a try. They're so hardy, so easy to pick, so abundant, that even our 2 little plants that we have in our backyard produce a lot of berries that we can use for various things over the year. And like a lot of other berries, they freeze great. So if I haven't convinced you, give it a try if you can find some red currants near you, and probably the year after you plant, you'll get some decent fruit.